Hello, YouTube. This is Asatsu5, and for those of you who are interested about my Spanish progress, I don't consider myself fluent yet, but just to tell you a few examples of, I've been doing Duolingo for like 550 days straight, maybe a little bit more, um, and I've been doing it for a few years now on a um, not a hardcore level, but like doing 2 lessons a day. You know, if I really studied and applied myself, I'd probably be more fluent than I am now. But basically, every morning, I show up to work early, and I wait to clock in, and I do my Spanish lessons while drinking a Dr Pepper 10 for caffeine, and that's basically what I do every day. I go to work early. Before I clock in, I do my Spanish lessons, and something interesting has happened. When I'm typing in English, instead of putting N-I-N, I'll put N-E-N, which E-N is in Spanish. And there's some other things, like instead of putting is in I-S, I put S, E-S, when I'm typing in English, when I want to type in English. And there's been a few occasions where I'll be kind of glancing at something and it'll be a Spanish sign and I'll read it, but I won't recognize it as it being a different language. Like there's this business that's called Cielo Azul, blue sky. And I just glanced at it. It's like, oh, blue sky. And, it didn't dawn on me that it was a different language. And this has happened, on social media, reading some friends post in Spanish. And keep in mind, I am not fluent. I am becoming more fluent, but I can't hold a full-on conversation yet. But my friend, I call him the Native American guide from the tribe of Mexico. His name is, I'm not going to say his name. I don't know if he wants his name out there. But he's my friend that shows up in my Arkansas videos. He pepper sprayed me in my pepper spray testing video. He's a very close friend, a brother from a Latina mother. Me, hermano, my brother. And anyways, he told me, Austin, you need to start using your Spanish more often. He's like, you're doing the lessons, but you need to apply it to really learn it. And I've done this before with Russian. I spoke Russian to a Russian waitress, and it was a very good experience. And for whatever reason, it didn't seem awkward to me. But when I was thinking about speaking Spanish to strangers, it was like, man, I really don't want to screw this up. I don't want to say something and it be misinterpreted and all that stuff. My vocabulary in Spanish far exceeds my vocabulary in Russian. But for whatever reason, I was very relaxed when I was speaking Russian. I was hanging out with my friend Danielle in Galveston, and we had a Russian waitress that did not advertise she was Russian, but she had a thick accent, and I pretty much surprised her with my Russian speaking abilities, and it was a good experience. But for whatever reason, and keep in mind, if I was sitting with my friend Daniel and he could back me up, he could help me, cheer me on, fill in some of the vocabulary that I don't quite know, which I'll get to in a second. It'd be a little bit more relaxing. But I was attempting to speak Spanish to strangers who I didn't have my friend with me. I didn't have my buffer. So I went to a Mexican restaurant. This was more of a Mexican restaurant. It had Tex-Mex, but it was more of a Mexican restaurant, not a Tex-Mex restaurant. There was a distinction there. But, of course, there was some Hispanic people working. And I had a Hispanic waitress come by, and I was really nervous. I was like, "Tu eres bilingüe?" And she said, yes. And I said in English, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to learn Spanish, and my friend told me that I need to, practice it. So just tell me if I'm doing good or not. She's like, okay. And what I should have said was, no, yo no hablo español. no, yo no hablo mucho español, yo tratando aprender, which would have been the Spanish version of what I said. Um, and so, and I had to keep reminding myself that I'm speaking Spanish in this encounter. So she'll ask me a question, and I made my order. I was like, "Yo quiero fajitas de pollo," um, and she was like flour or corn tortilla, and I didn't know how to say flour tortilla. I was like tortilla blanco, which they have white corn tortillas, and then I said in English flour tortillas, and she's like, "Oh, see, yeah," and it was awkward, but and I asked her like, "Am I doing this right? How bad is it?" She's like, "No, no, no, it's good, it's good," and it was awkward for me, and I don't know quite what she was thinking in the back of her head, but it 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 wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It was a good encounter, and it seemed like that the stranger that I was talking to appreciated that I was trying to make an effort to learn their language, um, and so it was interesting to me. It was a good experience, but it's pretty much I made my order. Yes, no, thank you, all in Spanish. But I couldn't have like a real back and forth conversation. I'm not at that point yet. Sometimes I'll expose my knowledge of Spanish to my friend Daniel. Like I'll be like, and I'll like have like I'll say something a phrase to him in Spanish. That's applicable to our situation. But most of the time when I'm hanging out with Daniel, I'm not trying to show off my Spanish to him. For when I'm hanging out with him, I just want to hang out with him. I don't want it to be a lesson, but I do ask questions like, "Is this applicable to this? Why do I use this word over this word? Why does this language learning app say this means this, but this other language app uses this? Mexican Spanish versus Spaniard or Spain Spanish versus other countries." So Daniel's a good resource, but I don't want to bug him about learning something. I want to hang out with him. He's my brother, he's my bud. We want to just BS and have a good time. Anyways, a few days passed, and I went to the same Mexican restaurant, and this is kind of funny, in my opinion. They were playing bachata music when I walked in, and I was the only person in there. Or I was the only customer in there, and two Hispanic people working, and I sat down, got my drink roll, and then I noticed that the music changed to country music, which some of you may or may not know. I'm not a big fan of country music. There's some country songs I like. I'm a pretty good fan of Waylon Jennings. I liked David Allan Coe before I found out he was a bad person, or not a great person, and Johnny Cash is alright, but in general, I don't like country music. So they put on country music, they put on Summer Nights from Greece, they put on some other English-speaking music. And I was thinking to myself while I was eating, I was like, did they do this for me? Should I confront them on this? Because I thought it was funny. I thought it was humorous. And I was like, I kind of want to be like, hey, did y'all put like English music on? Because I'm white. But I didn't want to like be confrontational. I meant it as a joke. And in general, if you want to call them Mexicans, they usually identify as Mexicans, but they're usually Hispanic technically. Mexican is a nationality, not a race. But usually, when you have a Hispanic person, they'll refer to themselves as Mexican. But they're really Americans or they're really Hispanic. They're not really. In some cases, they're from south of the border, but most of the time it's just their ethnicity that they're referring to. But anyways, the waitress or the female, she's a waitress. And I guess she was the cook because there's only two of them there. I had a waiter, and she walked by. She's like, "Hey, you like the music?" I was like, "No, me gusta reggaeton," which is no, I like reggaeton music. If you don't know what reggaeton is, it's kind of a Puerto Rican pop, hip hop, rap. I don't quite know how to say it, but it's like Puerto Rican club music. if you're gonna go clubbing, and examples of this would be like Despacito, Gasolina. Uh, Gasoline is a little bit older than Despacito, and Despacito is getting older. And there's some other ones, but those are reggaeton music, and it originated from Puerto Rico. But they're very popular in clubs, and not just Hispanic clubs, but I don't want to say white clubs because that's wrong and it sounds terrible, but normal clubs, multicultural clubs. There's some clubs that cater to the Hispanic community, and then those clubs that that don't cater to them, and they play Little John, or Pitbull, or Nacho, or whatever. They play what's it, Cuban dance, or Cuban shuffle, or Cubit shuffle, I think is what it's called. I don't know. I didn't plan this video out. I need my playlist to name some of these songs, but like Shots. These clubs play music from all over. But there's some clubs that cater to different ethnicities, and white people are welcome to those clubs. I've been to them, and they're usually pretty friendly in general, and there's some exceptions. But anyways, that's reggaeton. So I was like, no, me gusta reggaeton, and they're like, we'll fix you up with that. We'll put some reggaeton on. I was like, well, I'm fixing to leave now. She was like, that's all right, I'll play you out. So it was really funny, that, when I walked into this restaurant, they went from playing bachata to country music and show tunes and English songs. And I thought that was hilarious. And this is a general rule of mine. Anybody who's that has a niche restaurant, keep this in mind. If I'm going to the Hard Rock Cafe, I want to listen to hard rock, not Green Day or Good Charlotte, which, there's nothing wrong with Good Charlotte. I used to listen to them. But I want to play like classic rock, maybe some metal, hard rock. It's called the Hard Rock Cafe. That's what I expect to listen to. If I go to an Italian restaurant, I expect to listen to Italian music. If I go to a Tex-Mex or Mexican food restaurant, I expect to listen to Mexican music. That's the ambiance I want. If I go to a German restaurant, I've been to a German restaurant before, I want to hear German music. Preferably in Extreme or Rammstein, but that's probably not going to be the case. But, yeah, so that was just funny. I wanted to tell that story and let you know where I'm at. I have a Spanish custom knife that I ordered from Spain, and I want to be able to. I'm going to review it in English when I get it and use it. But at some point, I want to do that review in full Spanish. That's like a goal of mine, is to review a knife in Spanish. Other than that, that's my at my level where I'm at right now. I can kind of understand things. I'm kind of reading things and get the general gist of what they're talking about. I'm improving, but I am not fluent, and I can't hold a back and forth conversation. So that's it. I'm a Satsu 5, and I'm out.